So you're about to start dating an Enneagram 7. Hang on one second, you just need to watch this video first. I'm diving into the 10 things you absolutely have to know before dating an Enneagram Type 7, aka the enthusiastic visionary. When I asked this question to Type 7s on my Instagram, all of the replies were some form of don't be negative. In my experience teaching hundreds of teams all over the world about the Enneagram, this is something that comes up time and time again. The fastest way to shut down a Type 7 is to start the conversation with negativity. So tip number 10 is if you're facing conflict with a 7, don't lead with, angry, kind of icky energy. You want to bring an upbeat, positive attitude to the discussion. In fact, a superpower when you're facing conflict, which, let's be honest, in a relationship is inevitable, is to incorporate a 7's ideas into the solution as much as possible. Because the last thing 7s want is to feel trapped or deprived. So this gives them more agency over their life. But there's a downside to all of this positivity, because while 7s can be rays of sunshine, they can also start feeling like that is their job. So they treat it like a 9 to 5. They're avoiding difficult situations. They're shoving down those hard feelings. They are taking on that role of the entertainer. But it's exhausting always being the sunshine person who's always trying to keep everyone's spirits up. Just look at Chris Traeger from Parks and Recreation. He's the epitome of an eternal optimist, but when he gets hit with too much bad news, he gets to a point where he just can't anymore.
As you may know, Melissa and Gergich ended our relationship last night, which was disappointing. But here's why it may be the greatest thing that ever happened.
So something you can say is, I enjoy being around you, even if you're not constantly on and entertaining. So this is tip number 9. Give them space to just be, whether that be sad, calm, happy, or just vibing. While you do that, however, it's important to watch for signs that your Type 7 isn't doing so great. This is something that sets the Enneagram apart from other typing systems. It acknowledges that your personality isn't set in stone. And thank God for that, right? Like, I don't want to be the same insecure, anxious girl I was at 24. I'm a mom now. I need to be mature and grow, and I'm sure that you do too. Which is where Enneagram arrows come in handy. If you haven't heard of them, basically on the Enneagram symbol, your number is connected to 2 other numbers by lines across the circle. These lines, or arrows, show the relationship that your number has with the numbers that it's connected to. So your stress arrow shows you where you go when you're in a negative place, or as the name suggests, when you're stressed. For 7s, that means they move to the unhealthy side of a Type 1. They start building up inflexible rules and walls. They have this inner critic that comes out in full force, and they get super upset when their fun plans might be interrupted or someone might make them feel trapped and deprived. So tip number 8 is to watch for those warning signs, but not only that, to encourage your Type 7 to move towards their growth arrow, Type 5. This looks like encouraging them to rest and to actually confront those difficult feelings that they're always running from. It helps to remind them that they have everything they need to be happy right now. But that doesn't mean you can't encourage more joy in their lives when they're feeling down. One person on Instagram said a great way to do this is to listen to their stories and give them options for weekend adventures, which is a pretty universal thing I hear from all 7s. Please take me on adventures. Let's spend time together. Let's do something fun. I love the way this 7 put it. She said, life will most of the time be on the move, and it's important to be in touch with your inner child. So tip number 7 is to let the joy in as much as possible. Plus, that's a guaranteed way to make sure that a 7's gonna fall in love with you. Once that honeymoon phase is over though, you might be less inclined to go above and beyond with adventures. You're tired, you've got stuff to do, you wanna be realistic, I totally get it. But if you really wanna love a Type 7 the right way, you don't want them to feel trapped and deprived, right? Remember, that's their core fear. And if they're in a relationship that is constantly shutting down their wild ideas, they're going to feel trapped. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you have to agree with every single crazy thing a Type 7 says to you. Instead, like this 7 on Instagram suggested, Be realistic about their wild ideas without shutting them down. A 7's greatest gift is their ability to be visionaries. So tip number 6 is to let them vision. This next tip is along the same lines in that you want to minimize the ways they feel trapped, specifically when it comes to routine. 7s hate strict boundaries of their time. They need the ability to stay flexible in their daily life. If they feel like working outside in the woods or doing a spontaneous new hobby, they need a partner who respects that, which is tip number 5. But I get it, if you're a planner like me, it's hard to handle that kind of instability. But know that you are taking care of your 7. You are loving on them. You're being a good partner when you give them space to be spontaneous. Sometimes though, this spontaneous nature can cause us to be blinded to the reality of what's actually going on under the surface. Because on the outside, 7s seem fearless. But the truth is they're terrified of feeling all those icky things inside, things like sadness and anger and boredom. So they jump from experience to experience in the hopes that that next thing is finally going to be the one that fulfills them. It's only when 7s embrace that internal reality that they can truly grow. So your job as a partner, and this is tip number 4, is to be compassionate when you see your type 7 jumping from thing to thing to thing. It's more than just chasing the fun, it's running from reality. Next, take a cue from Kelly Clarkson. Miss Independent. 7s are channeling their inner Miss Independent all the time. And by that, I mean, though they enjoy the company of friends and family, they don't require constant companionship to be happy. Because the truth is, they've got their own thing going on, lots of interests and hobbies that might not align with you. So tip number 3 is to have your own life. Have your own thing going on, have your own friends and interests, because then at the end of the day, you guys can, go on a date and hang out together and actually have something to talk about. And while you're talking, you can sneak in tip number 2 as well, because 7s can fall into the trap of future thinking. This means that because they're always looking out for the next best thing, they fix their eyes on the future and forget to savor the present moment. Now, this trait is also what makes them such amazing visionaries. But it's hard to be happy when you're not living in the present moment. So this is where you come in. If you notice a 7 is just all into that future, like what ifs, looking ahead kind of thing, you want to ask them, what are they grateful for right now? Now, I want you to imagine this. A type 7 goes bankrupt. They say, when you think about it, bankruptcy is a fresh start. This, my friends, is a 7's defense mechanism, the art of the reframe. 7s don't want to feel negative emotions, so when something crappy happens, they put on their rose-colored glasses and they spin it into something positive. But reframing can be really frustrating in relationships. Sometimes you just want to look at the crappy reality of a situation. So tip number 1 is, ironically, to reframe how you see their tendency. Because it's not immaturity or an unwillingness to solve problems. And while it can be, more often it's a form of self-protection. And they've been doing it since they were little kids. It's just like ingrained in how they react to things in life. So please keep in mind that your 7 is doing their very best to survive in that moment. But there's so much more to making sure that your 7 feels loved and appreciated by you. Which is why in this next video, I'm gonna give you 10 more tips and tools for loving the Enneagram 7 in your life. I'll see you over there.